I'm launching a whole new thing that I want to try. And this is more, um, maybe harder, maybe more challenging, and actually maybe more life changing. And so I hope you want to hear about it because I want to tell you about it. And I want someone to do it with me. So hopefully by the end of this, you'll want to do it too. You can tell me in the comments that you want to do it. So let's talk about it. Hi, I'm Jackie Wolven, and I'm interested in loving where we are. And on Sundays, I paint in the studio with you. I have decided that I would like to be a better listener. Ugh, right? Like, you may be a great listener. Maybe you are. And if I were to do a scale of like 1 to 10, 1 being a terrible listener and 10 being a really tremendous listener, I would put myself kind of on the scale between 4 and 6. And the reason is because I just get so excited when I'm around other people that I just want to tell them all the things. It's like I have show and tell syndrome or something, which isn't a real thing. It's just in my head. But it's where I want to tell people all the things and things I'm learning and things I'm doing and stuff I'm excited about. And I'm excited about what they're doing. And I want to, talk about what they're doing. But I feel like my listening skills just aren't as good as they could be. And I'm missing out on the richness that listening brings. And I'm talking about like deep listening, like really, really listening. Like not where you're like, yep, yep, yep. That's not listening. I'm talking about like really being present and listening. And I've been practicing it a little bit in different situations. And it does make for a richer experience. It makes for a slower experience. And what I mean by slower, I mean that time kind of, you don't feel rushed. You don't feel like I just have to get to the next thing. You feel super present. And so, my challenge to myself is to practice more of this listening. And I have 10 tips for how I'm going to do this and how you might want to do this too. I just feel like part of living a slower life and loving where you are in that life is to learn some skills to experience it in a deeper, more meaningful way. And one of the things I think is listening. And so I I should probably ask friends and family where they would put me on the scale as a listener, but that actually seems kind of scary. I don't think I want to do that. They might say I'm like a 1 or a 2. I don't know. Or maybe they think I'm better than I am. I don't know. I don't know. But I, for myself, want to incorporate more of a practice around listening and really make it more intentional, is what I'm saying. I want to have be an intentional listener. And so what does that mean? What does it mean to be an intentional listener? So, some things that I know are situational. I know that in large groups of people, it's going to be hard to focus on one person for a long time to really listen to their story. And so, instead, to listen with intent in that moment, but know that you're not going to be able to get as deep. And that's okay. That's okay. It also means putting aside like my own thoughts, which is where I struggle the most and where most of us struggle, I think. I was raised in a family of intellectuals. My parents were intellectuals, and and my siblings were 11 and 12 years older than I was. And so I was the baby, and it was like a race to be the smartest, most interesting person in the room all the time. Like, it was a competition. And so I was sort of primed to be that person. Like, that was what was respected, to have the fact, to have the idea, to have the comeback. And when you didn't, you might cry because they would shame you. They were also competitive in their intellectualism, I guess, which is a terrible thing. Don't worry, I'm in lots of therapy to deal with it, but that's that's part of it. And so I know that I'm sort of untraining myself, right? I'm untraining myself to be more present. And so some of the things that are helpful are to face the speaker. So it's really hard to listen to someone when you're sort of side by side. So to actually turn and face them, to really like look at them is a simple way. Like just really be there with that person. And when I'm listening, I'm also sort of looking for nonverbal cues. So the second thing would be nonverbal cues. Like, are they crossing their arms? Are they hunched? Are they, facing forward? Are they leaning back? Are they relaxed? Are they a little more anxious or have some, they're hot about a topic? Like to look at the nonverbal cues as well. Here's the big one, and this is where I think I fail, is do not interrupt. I'm absolutely an interrupter. I interrupt all the time. Oh my gosh, I'm such an interrupter. But do not interrupt is how you listen, right? You're listening. And so it's the thing that I think I need a lot of work on. It's hard. That impulse control to not interrupt is hard when you are sort of trained to have been an interrupter. The next thing is to listen without judgment. So this is tricky. So think about situations where you're not just with like-minded people, or even if you are, people live their lives differently than you do. So how do you listen without judgment? And you're just listening. You're just listening. You're not automatically saying, yeah, okay. You are listening with your whole heart in that way and not judging the action, the thought, the person, and just listening. That might be a struggle too, although in the work that I do, I deal with all kinds of people, and I think I have built that skill a little bit better. We all know what it's like to feel that the listener is being dismissive, right? That they are belittling your experience or making you feel that what you're saying is not in alignment with what they think. You're being judged. We all know what that feels like. It's a terrible feeling. And so learning to listen in a way that says, that's interesting, or wow, I never thought of it that way, is a different way of listening. So here's another big one for me. It goes right with the do not interrupt. It's the do not start planning what you're going to say next. Oh, I'm always planning what I'm going to say next. But that is not listening. If you're doing that, you are in your head. You are not present with the person that you're listening to. And I can be guilty of that for sure, especially in like group settings where everyone's talking about their idea or their thing or whatever, and you're trying to come up with yours. It's almost why I don't like those icebreakers. You go to a meeting or a function and they do an icebreaker that says, tell us something about yourself that nobody would know. Well, I have this theory that everybody is just thinking of their own thing and feeling some anxiety about having to say that thing, that they're not actually listening to anybody else's thing. So I think those icebreakers are not great for listening skills, actually, but tangent, sorry. Another tip is to show that you're listening, and that is like by nodding your head and like leaning in, like physical ways, and also saying, yes, I hear you, okay. Like that is helpful. That is helpful to have the speaker know that you're actually in there with them, right? The lean forward is actually one of the best because they get like, oh, I have you. You're in there. Do not impose your opinions or solutions. They're not asking you to fix something unless they're asking you to fix something. This is also a very hard one. We're all rushing to fix something for somebody, and oftentimes people just want to tell you a thing, or they want to invent a thing, they want to share a thing. They don't actually want your solutions. If you're like me and you have a little bit of anxiety, what you're really trying to do is calm your own anxiety that you are experiencing to make it feel better. Um, it's not about them at that point, it's about you. And so to check yourself a little bit and say, they're not asking unless they're asking. Now you can ask them, would you like help with a solution? Are you interested in problem solving this? And if they say no, and you might need to give them permission to say no, you might need to say, are you interested in help with this? And it's totally okay if you're not. Like, that's okay. That's okay. That gives them a way out, right? Like, no, I don't want your help. I just wanted to vent this. My husband and I recently, I don't know if we listened to a podcast. I'm trying to think. Like, we listened to a podcast or we read something that said studies show that people need 8 minutes to vent about a particular issue, to have it release from their body and their consciousness and their mind. Like 8 minutes is the golden time. So like if you're really hot about a topic and it's really causing you a lot of feelings, you might say to your partner, your husband or your work partner or whomever, or your wife, whomever, the person you vent to, say, I need 8 minutes to just say all of the things. And I don't want any solutions. I just need to say these things out loud. And can we put a timer on for 8 minutes? And I'm not going to lie, that works. That totally works. There's something golden about the 8 minutes. Another tip is to stay focused. If you're having trouble listening, I'm assuming if you've gotten this far that you also might think you have trouble listening. If you have trouble listening, one of the things to do is to repeat back what they're saying. That helps you to stay focused on the conversation. So if they're saying, well, this, and this, you can paraphrase that and say, so what I'm hearing is this, and this. Am I right? And they can say, yes, that is exactly it. That paraphrasing, one, helps you to listen and process the information better. It also signals to them to help them stay focused as well. We all know about those conversations that go off in these wild tangents. And so it's like, what were we talking about? Let me go back to that. Let's refocus. Let's go back to that. Another thing about listening that can help you listen better is to ask questions. So when you're listening, when you're truly listening to someone, you're able to ask good questions. That isn't interrupting. That isn't thinking about what you're going to say next. That is engaged in the conversation and you are asking questions. And so that might be another way for you to refocus and keep the conversation going in sort of one direction. If you're wrapping up, so one of the things about listening that I actually find difficult is getting out of the conversation. So you're in it with them and like, you had your 8 minutes or however long you have, right? And then like exiting the conversation. And I live in the South now, and I'm going to tell you, exiting a conversation is really hard. And I know that's true in the Midwest too. So, people have needs to connect in different ways in different places. And so I don't know what it's like where you are, but in the South and the Midwest in America, it is really hard to extricate yourself from a conversation. People like say goodbye for a half an hour. Like that is how people leave. So I know that. But one of the things that if you need to start to get out of a conversation is to say, paraphrase what they were talking about. Just say a summary kind of, and just say, I really heard you. I really heard that. And I appreciate this conversation. That gives it some closure. And then you can either move to a different topic or move out of the conversation. I find having an exit point, so deep listening or listening to someone with actual like presence means that they will feel fully heard, and those conversations actually, that closure is a good feeling for everybody. It's not like you're blowing them off. It's like, I've really heard you and I really appreciate this time that we spent together and this time listening. And now I'm gonna, I have to go do X, Y, and Z. I think those tips are helpful. I think that for me, what I'm looking at in this practice that I want to try is that I realize, I'm going to give some caveats. I realize not every conversation is meant to be deeply listened to. Like every time you engage in talking to someone doesn't mean that you're going to have some deep, meaningful conversation. What I want, though, is to be present in the conversations that I am having. I don't want to be thinking about what I have to do next. I don't want to be thinking about the past. I don't want to be formulating a snappy answer. I just want to be there with that person in that moment, sharing that moment with them. And so I know that's not going to be every conversation that I'm having, but I do want it to be a lot of the conversations that I'm having. To live a slow, rich, meaningful life, the good stuff, means to practice it. And so I hope you'll join me. And if you will, if listening is something that is sort of a challenge for you, or you think it might be on that scale, maybe put yourself on that scale in the comments. There's no shame. I mean, I put myself between 4 and 6, so probably 4. So maybe put your scale, and then, is this something that has come up for you? Is this something that you would like to deepen? Is this a practice that you would like to learn more about? Is this something that you want to practice, like try to get better at? Maybe you just want to learn to listen to your partner more or your kids more. I find this, I will say for the parents, practicing this with kids is difficult. This is difficult. They are tangent people. Their little minds are all over, and they're talking, and they just talk. They constantly talk. If you have one of those, there can be constant talkers or they're not talkers, but they're often talking about things that you are not particularly interested in. They may tell you all of the epic things about, I don't know, some movie that they saw, or some game that they're playing, or some, they're in worlds in their minds. And so give yourself a break, is what I'm going to say for parents. Give yourself a break. You are not going to be present 24/7, listening to your child 24/7. You will lose yourself. That is crazy. Do not do that. What I am saying, though, is that when you allow yourself moments to actually be present, which is all they want, by the way, that's all children ever want, is to have that connection with their caregiver, whoever that might be. If you were to say to yourself, I'm going to spend the next 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, whatever it might be, actually being fully present with them, it will change things. There will be a shift. And it gets easier and it gets better. And so don't knock yourself. There is no possible way that you can listen to every ramble that they have. And plus, they're also talking to themselves out loud, because kids do that. And so... So are you talking to me, or are you talking to yourself? And they can't differentiate sometimes. So that's why I say, give yourself a lot of grace, parents. Don't expect all the things. It's totally fine. Practice your listening in small doses with kids. And then that will lengthen as they grow older too, right? So as you're developing your skill, they're also developing their skills. So that's kind of nice. But you might pick someone else. You may pick, like, I really want to listen more to my grandparents, or my coworkers, or my community members, or when I go to book club next time, I want to be really present and really listening to the conversation, not so worried about what I'm going to say. So let me know. Let me know if that's something you want to try. Let me know where you are on the scale. And if you have any tips for better listening, or how it's improved your life, let me know. I'd love to know. I'd love to have a conversation about it, actually. I think that these are skills that can always be deeper and richer, and we can learn more. And I'm excited. I'm excited about this new challenge. So we'll see how it goes. The last challenge lasted about 2 months. Let's see how this might be a lifetime, but maybe I'll do a check-in at the 2-month period. And so, yeah, thanks so much. I'm so excited, and welcome to a whole new thing. Let's go listen.